NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Taylor. Another atmospheric river is rolling in off the coast of California. Nearly the entire state is under a flood watch. The Weather Prediction Center has issued an excessive rain outlook for most of California through Tuesday. 2 Minnesota police officers and a paramedic were shot and killed while responding to a domestic abuse call early Sunday in a Minneapolis suburb. Michael Kastner has more.
According to the Star Tribune, law enforcement sources confirmed the suspected gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The shooting happened in Burnsville, about 15 miles south of Minneapolis.
Donald Trump is comparing the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny to his legal problems in the U.S. In a post on Truth Social, the former president said the death of Navalny made him more aware of what's happening in the U.S. He said radical left politicians, prosecutors, and judges are leading the nation down a path to destruction. Trump is currently facing 91 felony charges across 4 different cases, including his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election, and was recently ordered to pay $355 million as part of a civil fraud trial in New York. At least 1 person is dead and 5 others are injured after a shooting at an Indianapolis Waffle House just after midnight. Police say 2 groups of people got into an altercation leading up to the shooting. It's unclear if any of the injured were also individuals who fired shots. Most Americans are unhappy with how the Biden administration is handling the influx of immigrants. That's according to new data from the Pew Research Center, which surveyed over 5,000 people and found only 18% of them said the U.S. is doing a very good or somewhat good job of dealing with the influx of migrants at the southern border. A majority said the administration was doing a somewhat bad job. Los Angeles Lakers superstar LeBron James is happy right where he is. The NBA legend told the media Sunday he's been satisfied being a Laker for the past 6 years and hopes it stays that way. The 39-year-old admitted there are not that many seasons left in his career, and he'd like to finish things off as a Laker. You're listening to the latest on NBC News Radio.
What would you do if you had a broken bone? You'd go to the doctor and use your insurance, right? Well, what would you do if you have a serious problem with drugs and alcohol? Most people do nothing until it's way too late. Your insurance can help you get clean and sober with the assistance of a place like the Detox and Treatment Helpline. Many times, addiction treatment is fully covered. So why not use your insurance to treat your addiction problem just like you would if you had a broken bone? And with the Family Medical Leave Act, you're allowed to take time off by law, and your employer doesn't need to know the reason. So there are 2 good reasons. You've got insurance you can use for your addiction problem, and with the Family Medical Leave Act, it's completely confidential. Call now, 800-398-7414. That's 800-398-7414.
It's time to shop in the cool, relaxed comfort of the Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands, conveniently located on the I-10 freeway between the Alabama and Tennessee exits. Bring the kids too and watch them play in the only indoor fun center, High Five Indoor Playground, where parents are welcomed on the playground. Birthday celebrations are encouraged, so make plans for some great fun at the mall. More reasons why the Tri-City Center is called the Mall with a Heart.
Was your car involved in an accident or just need help with dents? All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers, in business for over 30 years. Their highly trained staff and certified technicians and friendly staff are the best in the business and treat each car as if it was their own. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers are family-owned and offer state-of-the-art equipment and tools to ensure optimum results. They use the latest technology in computerized color matching and specialize in frame repairs. With their modern laser measuring systems, they're OEM certified, and they have 4 locations to serve you. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers offer rental car assistance with free drop-off and pickup services too, and their work has a lifetime guarantee. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers are in Norco, Eastvale, Moreno Valley, and in Fontana. Call them at 1-800-61-MAGIC. That's 1-800-61-MAGIC. All Magic Paint and Body Collision Centers. 1-800-61-MAGIC. All Magic Paint and Auto Body says, drive carefully.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone. Are you lonely? No.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be
But
the answer.
I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. But I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I can come over.
Come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome, you're tuned to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, home to the Asian Oprah, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness. So there's no gossip on this show, no scandal, and no K-words. No Kanye talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have topics and guests and past guests, 1,109 podcast shows in the can. And, well, actually 8. Today will go in the can. If you stay with me today, we're going to be talking about healing from trauma. This is Mental Health Monday Matters. Mondays. Mental Health Matters Mondays. Mondays. That's why we're talking about things that you can actually help yourself with. And y'all know I have a doctorate, but I'm not a medical doctor. I am a PhD, which just stands for Piled Higher and Deeper. And it is in organizational psychology. So whatever advice I do give, it is in the scope of happiness coaching. So if you're going to no medical advice, no psych meds advice, instead, I want to tap into your own ability to do some healing yourself. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get to that, y'all know it is tradition. It is part of our Blisscipline or good life habit to start every show with gratitude. Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of my teachers who's now on the other side with my dad who's in heaven, he says, start your day with 5 things that you're grateful for. And I'm a bit of an overachiever, so I say 8. And 8 is a lucky number in Chinese. That's why we do 8. It's a homophone for good fortune. And it's still Happy Chinese New Year era for 15 days from last Saturday. So I can still wish you a very happy Year of the Dragon. But let's start with gratitude. I am grateful that my back feels better than it has since I not accidentally, I guess, heard it right before the show on You Can Be Happy Even with Chronic Pain last Monday. My friendly universe has a sense of humor, and I'm grateful that I have really cool rubber boots to wear today in the rain. I am grateful that I have an appointment with a physical therapist, and PT does not stand for pain and torture. Sometimes it does, but I'm grateful that I have that capacity. I'm grateful that Frank is in the studio. He's my favorite sound engineer back there. I'm grateful that I have been on for 619 consecutive weeks on the air, on camera. They said a show about good things to balance out all the bad news out there was not going to last, and I'm glad they're wrong. Frank, you are welcome to also add to the gratitude list. I do see eyeballs rolling in right now. Thanks for joining the stream. My YouTube TV channel is where you can best go and type, but please don't do that if you're driving. I'm grateful that I will be having Rich Little on my show We're going to put him on tomorrow, and I got to interview him back in Las Vegas when I was there on location with United Natives, big gala, and I got to go to his home, and I'll be showing you some of the stuff on his walls. I had no idea. You know, he was around in the era of Frank Sinatra. He, you know, hung out with all those really fabulous Hollywood people, and has some interesting memories of that I'll share with you on the show tomorrow. I'm grateful, last gratitude, that I am inside on this cold, blustery day, and that I'm one of the 8% of people in the world who have a roof over their head, food in the fridge, and a little money in the wallet. So I hope that you are grateful for all those things as well and more. That's the top of the bun. We're going to go to the bottom of the bun, which is now, what do you like about yourself? What do you appreciate about yourself? And the reason why we do this is it is my BS, my belief system, that when you are grateful for things about yourself, you're less likely to be rocked by what's going on outside, because you know who you are. You know that you're 88% fabulous and 12% you step in it, imperfectly perfect. And that's why we do this exercise at the bottom of the button to isolate those things, the adjectives that you can describe about yourself. So please feel free to play along here. And oh, good. Frank he usually does the gratitude, not the appreciation, but I'm glad to see he appreciates his creativity. Awesome, Frank. And I appreciate my creativity, that it gets to be expressed in my fashionista-ism. I appreciate my ability to just work through pain, mental, emotional, physical, and I like saying, you're a trooper, Mama. I'm a trooper. I appreciate my ability to be a good mom. I'm not perfect, but I'm a heck of a lot better than my mom was, and that's our only job. Is not to be perfect as parents, but to do better than our parents did. I appreciate my ability to laugh. I just love to laugh, and it's my favorite sound in the world. I appreciate my ability to see the funny side of things and not take things so personally, for sure. And I'm giggling because, Frank, you know that I've started dating again. First time in 7 years. I went on my fourth date. I was wrong. I thought this was my third date, but it was my fourth date. And super nice guy. Was such a gentleman again. Picked up the check when he went to the bathroom. Great restaurant, Aji on 4th Street in Long Beach. Give them a little plug. Great Peruvian food. And I thought we had a great conversation. I didn't necessarily feel any, no fluttering or anything, but super nice guy, a lot of things in common, life experience, and then what we do for a living. And like 9 o'clock, I was waiting for let's move to get a coffee or a drink somewhere. And he says, I gotta go. I have to go. My bedtime is 9:30. Wasn't even 9 yet. And he goes, what time do you go to bed? I go, about midnight. And he goes, what time? Well, I get up at 6. And he goes, what time do you get up? I go, 6. So, Frank, that's my ability to, I'm so appreciative of my new outlook on dating. It's like really not a big deal when there isn't anything. This is not a waste of my time. I really enjoy getting to meet different people. So I appreciate my ability to put myself out there again and sort of laugh at when things are, obviously this is I hope this is, I'm not going to generalize, but I was told that if I didn't, if I dated people who were much younger, then all they wanted was blank. And if I dated men who were older, then, that's more what I'm looking for. But we definitely are finding that the older ones don't have as much energy as I do. I'm not going to say all of them. So I'm still on the hunt, on the lookout for the one who matches me. So, all right, and that's it for having breakfast with Dr. Marissa, a discipline that I promise if you do for 28 consecutive days, you will sandwich your day in the most positive way. Thanks for joining me for breakfast. All righty. Thanks for joining me here on Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And the topic today is trauma and healing from trauma. And the reason why I am talking about this is I had a past guest message me with a clip from a person who was talking about trauma and childhood trauma and how it manifests itself or it gets stuck in the emotional body, in the physical body. And my response to him was, I don't like to focus on, I don't like to dissect trauma, because by continuing to revisit and focus on and ruminate, I call it, or ruinate on past trauma, you keep it alive, and you keep it alive wherever it is. And so I thought, well, let's just talk about that today, because I think it's an important topic because of all of the focus of mental health right now. And I am glad that we are focusing on mental health. And my honorable moniker, Oprah, says that, childhood trauma happens to as high as 8 out of 10. I had seen the statistic of 7 out of 10 kids go through trauma. I'm one of the 7 out of 10. I heard Oprah say it was as high as 8 out of 10. And now when I Google it, it says as high as 93% of psych professionals say that you've had childhood trauma. Now, couple of things when it comes to that. And y'all know what I'm going to be talking about. You can find, if I can find it, in my book, 8 Ways to Happiness, from wherever you are. Put it over here. And it is self-help on steroids. And I do have you look at trauma. So I am definitely not a person that says the past is the past, can't change it, bury it, don't think about it at all, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just, move on, right? I definitely know that is also an extreme that is not healthy, right? What you do not deal with will deal with you. And the other extreme, though, which is what I was trying to explain to a friend and his guest, is there is such a thing as overanalyzing. That's a good word. Overanalyzing what has happened to you, and also looking for something. When I hear people going into, session after session after session, regressing or trying to heal the trauma by, continuing to talk about it and, cry about it and be angry about it and just like go in there and like, wade through it and bathe in their trauma, is when I say, whoa, that's really, that is, for me, my opinion, and the basis of my happiness coaching is you only need to go there one time and deep dive into it. And, the analogy I use is everybody has that black hole that is in front of them that you don't want to go in there because you're afraid of what will happen, like Humpty Dumpty. I'm going to go in and revisit childhood trauma, and I'm going to fall apart, and I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. I'm going to be like Humpty Dumpty and break into a million pieces and never be able to put myself together again. And that is bullshit talking, because we are not the same who had the trauma. So if you're listening to me now, and I do see eyeballs, thank you for joining us here today on Mental Health Monday Matters. We are talking about healing from trauma in a way that doesn't make things worse. Okay, so that's my happiness model and happiness approach. Happy 88, hashtag Happy 88 approach to healing from trauma. So we don't want the extreme of one end, not dealing with it at all, because what you don't deal with will come back and bite you in the butt. And we don't want to go to the other extreme of diving into and taking a swim and bathing ourselves and covering ourselves in that mud of the past. That is also not the approach that I am recommending. So where is that middle ground? That's why I'm all about balance. That going in one time, like Humpty Dumpty, except you're not going to break in a million parts, requires, it's always good to go in there with a friend or with a coach or with a therapist or with someone who can help you realize that you are not that person who had all of that trauma in the past. You're not the same person. And the model I use is separating out and then integrating who you are. Separating out your coping mechanisms and the people that developed as a result of the trauma, and then bringing you all back together again. So that's what we're talking about today. And if you have any questions or if you have any examples from your own life and you'd like to share it in the chat, please do. I can make you anonymous, but that is what we're doing. All right. I do love my coffee in the morning. All right. So I'll use myself as an example. I thought there was a person coming down off of the balcony on the other side. That scared me. They're just cleaning their rug. Okay. So that's what we're doing. We're cleaning our rugs. You go into that hole that you're scared of going to, and I'll just use my personal example. This is all in my book as well. And anybody who would like an audiobook copy of Gateways to Happiness today, on Mondays, that's when I give it away. And just go to drmarissa.life, put in your email, and I'll send you the promo code of how to get a free audiobook copy of the book. All right, so the exercises, this is all from the exercises in my book. We're obviously not going to do the whole book, but today I wanted to start you off on this journey to healing if you've had childhood trauma. So first I'm going to appeal to your mind and just ask you this question, because this dawned on me. I gave you the statistics, 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10, whichever one you want, or 9 out of 10 of us who've had childhood trauma. And some of you may be getting stuck on, well, what defines trauma? How bad is trauma? I know there's some in the baby boomer generation who will say, oh, suck it up. You didn't have trauma. That was how we disciplined in those days. We used a belt or whatever. That wasn't trauma. You're overly sensitive, and you deserve a good whack on the butt. Okay, so I've heard that too, and I'm not here to argue or define in general what trauma is. For me, if you have really sad feelings about your upbringing or about your experiences as a child, however big or small they may be, okay? There's no, official, well, there probably is. I wonder if they do define trauma. You know me, I love to research stuff. So let's take a look at what trauma is defined as, even though I said I wasn't gonna, but I'm just curious now. It says a deeply distressing or disturbing experience, a personal trauma like death of a child or injury. Emotional response to a terrible event like accident, rape, or natural. Okay, let me put in childhood trauma and see if that changes anything. Childhood trauma. Oh, there's a test. Okay. Let's see, is there a definition here? What is childhood trauma? Can occur when a child witnesses or experiences overwhelming negative events in childhood. Many childhood experiences can overwhelm a child. Okay, the experience here, NIMH defines it as the experience of an event that is emotionally painful or distressful, which often results in lasting mental and physical effects. Okay, that is the one, the definition we're going to be using. And let's see how long this, if it's a short test. Let's see, childhood, let me put in short childhood, because I want to get to the tools, but I think this is a good thing to, let's see, short one. 10 question quiz, short, I like it. Here we go. 4 minutes, table of contents. Okay, quiz. Let's see, get started. Oh no, Charlie Health. No, where's the test? Okay. Take the test. Back to the library. Get started. If this doesn't work, we're gonna. Okay, that's not gonna happen. All right. Well, we tried. For me, my definition of childhood trauma is when you have something happen to you when you were a kid that you break down as a child. So for me, I was physically beaten and I was told I'm fat, ugly, and clumsy. That message was daily, if not hourly, and that I disappointed and was a horrible daughter, and that I was an extreme disappointment to my mother, and she did the best that she could, and she had her own trauma. But right now we're talking about my trauma. So I want you, if you're willing and you really want to do something different, instead of taking that trauma with you for your present and spewing it onto your future, then just play along with me. And I'm here with you. I'm holding your hand virtually. And we're taking a flashlight and we're jumping into that hole, that big black hole that nobody wants to go into. And we're going to shine that light down in that hole to find the bottom. So you're not going to fall forever. You're not going to lose it. You're not going to end up in a psych ward. You're not going to break apart into a million pieces like Humpty Dumpty. But if you want to heal from trauma, you do have to go in one time, and all the way in. So I'm using this as a contrast to traditional, which is why I don't do traditional therapy, and not all therapists do this, but I know that if I purposely am not licensed as well, because I don't believe that you need to talk about your trauma for 10 years, and that every time you revisit that trauma, you are back to where you were as a child, and you cry and you're angry, and you cry and you're angry. To me, that I knew was not the way, because that's what I would first not deal with it at all and just drink over it or eat over it or stuff it down and, achieve over it, anything to stop thinking about that pain. And then on the other hand, when I said, okay, I have to deal with it, I was over dealing with it and just constantly. And what would happen was I'm a happy drunk or happy, drink, and you're all happy. But then I would reach that certain point, and then it was, she did this to me and this to me and this to me and this to me. And it was just like huge pity party. And it took a couple of decades of doing that to realize that that was not the best way to deal with my childhood trauma. So I'm encouraging you, you don't have to do this now, but you can do this please do get the audiobook and do it along with me. I speak the entire book and we do the exercises. So the first thing is when you're jumping down there to the pain, to know that you're not going to break apart, to know that this is a healing treatment to go back and be that person, that little girl, and get in touch with the one who is super sad. Because a lot of us, you know, they call the inner child. I'm allergic to any terms that get psychopopped. So I just call it my little side girl, you know. And when we've had childhood trauma, you will develop a little girl inside, and I call her Sarah. I just named her that. I have clients who call it sweetheart. You know, you pick a name for that sad little girl who experienced all of those things that were hurtful, whatever it was. Abandonment, bullying, ridicule, abuse, mental, emotional, physical, whatever it was that separated out the little one who got really, really hurt. And I actually encourage you to name that little girl, or name that little boy. Who was that little one who got hurt, okay? And the reason why we do this is because we are going to develop who you really are. A lot of us think that we are the one who is, I'm just a worrywart. That's who I am. I am depressed. That's who I am. I am sad. That's who I am. I'm anxious. That's who I am. I am chronically angry. That's not who you are. So we identify with sort of the worst case scenario of the feelings that we're having, when in essence, that's not who you really are. You are balance centered, and then use your name. So I'm balance centered Dr. Marissa, and I am growing her up to be able to soothe and take care of the rest of the cast of characters, okay? So that first one that I want you to really embrace and hold and be the guardian and the parent of is that little girl inside of you, little boy inside of you who was hurt, okay? So take a breath and release, and just see what name pops up for your little girl. And I want you to put your arm around that little girl, and she might be crying right now because she's being seen. She's not being shoved away or pushed down or out of sight. She's being asked to come and be loved and be held and be supported in a way that she couldn't be when she was the age that she was. So from my first recollections, I guess it started when very early until, until I left the house, really, 17, So for 17 years, that little girl had no one to take care of her, had no one to protect her from the abuse. And so one of my jobs now as a balance-centered parent is to nurture and soothe and take care of that little girl that was birthed and hidden from the abuse. So if you have any kind of recollection of being hurt as a child, I want you to now do that exercise and give me the name of your little girl. And that little girl is the part of you that is soft and sensitive and sweet, male or female. It is the side that is loves hugging and loves new things and is sweet and is fresh. That's a part of you that everybody has. Now, when you've had childhood trauma and you don't recognize that soft side of you or that little girl, it makes you hard, makes you bitter. You don't have that. I have clients who, don't wear dresses because they don't feel feminine at all. They have developed a coping mechanism of being tough, and they are strong, and they'll hurt you before you can hurt me. That's another coping mechanism, and that entity is called the brat. So actually, there's two, but let me go back. So we have a name. My name for my little sad one is Sarah. I hope you have. If you want to put the name in the chat, please do. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in studio today, it is Monday, which means Monday. And actually, rainy days and Mondays always get me. Hashtag up, hashtag unlimited possibilities. And I am Dr. Marissa, and we are talking about healing from childhood trauma on Take My Advice. I'm not using a gift house of Dr. Marissa. The morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and of course my YouTube channel, where if you free subscribe, you get to play along, see, and watch and listen to my weekday morning show. So we are now, we've got one of the coping mechanisms, which was the breakout of the sad one. And this is the one that I let play at least once a week. I have her, I give her the opportunity to cry. Sad movie, bubble bath, whatever it is. Sometimes I cry in meditation, usually tears of joy, but sometimes I get in touch with that little one who did get hurt. And it's a different way of connecting to the trauma because you're not unconsolable and you're not going to that, how could that happen to me? Why did that happen to me? How dare you? None of that. We're just connecting with the little one, giving her some hugs, giving her some, validation that balance-centered you, balance-centered Dr. Marissa, will never let anything like that happen to you again. So it's taking the child and giving it the reassurance that it did not get when it was in the state of not being able to do that. You can't do that when you're a kid. You don't know what's happening to you, and you're not responsible for what happened to you. And this is another BS belief system that I want you to hold very strong, is a lot of kids who have been abused. I know I went through the phase of, one, did it really happen? And two, maybe I did something to deserve it, because I've been told so often that I was good for nothing, and you're not all that, and you're not that great. So why would I think that I was anything other than what I was told as a child? I didn't have any knowing that I wasn't that, so I took it on. But in this healing process of happiness coaching that I'm giving to you today, I'm telling you, please look at me in the eye. If you had childhood trauma, nothing that happened to you was your fault. Even if you were a brat, nothing. As a child, you did nothing wrong, okay? You're not responsible for what happened to you. And I want you to hold that very, very close to yourself, to your heart, to your mind, to your soul, because it's so important for that little one inside of us, the sweetheart, my Sarah, the little sad one, to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that nothing that happened to you were you responsible for or did you deserve. And I want you to hold that. And if you need to cry, please do. Tears of a disinfectant, they keep our hearts soft. I love it when people cry because I know their hearts are open. So just spend a minute just with that knowing, and that starts the healing journey. The next person that kind of comes out to deal with childhood trauma is the brat. And the brat is developed as a coping mechanism to sort of push back at the trauma, at the abuse. And that is called the brat. And my brat's name is Agnes. And she's the one that says, I don't have to apologize. F you. I didn't do anything wrong. If I look like you, I'd be miserable too. She's the queen of insults, and she developed in an effort to try to protect the sad one. And again, there's nothing wrong with her. She's not very helpful, though she's can sabotage you in later years when you're trying to be successful, because she'll say things that are not well timed. But the good news about Agnes is she's also the fun side. So a lot of people who have not processed through trauma don't have a very fun life. They are constantly worried or constantly angry or constantly pushing back or constantly sabotaging. And so to become to address and look and deal with the part of you that's called the brat is also part of the healing process. So the first part is to name your brat. So mine's named Agnes. What is yours? And you can write it down. You can also put it down in the chat if you'd like to play along. So that is a second character that is in you that is part of your healing process. And so I'm taking you, me, balance-centered, Dr. Marissa is the big entity, right? And then the parts of me that sort of developed as coping mechanisms to the trauma is the sad one, Sarah, and the brat, Agnes. So now we're going to do something where this is an important part of the process, which is recognizing who is driving your life car. So most of us who have had childhood trauma, we find ourselves doing or saying things or picking people that aren't good for us. And it is very common when you've had trauma to have the critic or the brat drive, or if you're extremely depressed, the sad one driving your life car. So you see life through the eyes of the sad one, or the eyes of the bratty one, or the eyes of the critical one. And most of the time it's the critical one. And critical is a very strong part of you that was developed to protect, again, the cast of characters. So the sad one and their kids, right? So the critical one is the one that says, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that. You should know better. In essence, you internalize that person who was the most critical of you, and you take everything they say and internalize it, and then you collect criticisms from every other part of your life, and you create this giant critic that is literally suffocating the life out of you, because she's driving your life car like almost over a cliff. And this is where we have the power to remove the critic from driving your life car. But a lot of my clients think they are hopelessly screwed in a bad way because they can't seem to find happiness. They can't seem to find a place where, okay, I can breathe. I have some internal peace. I have peace of mind. I have peace of heart, because you've got your critic driving your car. So it's important to recognize who's driving your life car. And most of the time it is the critic. So I'm a motivational speaker. I go all over the world. I ask people, do you have a voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough? You'll never be enough. You're not worthy. You're not all that. Do you have that voice? Every place I go in the world, every language, I get people who raise their hand, and it's almost all the hands all the time. I've only met one person. She was on the show. I've interviewed her twice, who said, I don't have that voice, which is, a reflection of her discipline of being able to, I still have that voice. It's not as loud, but it is a voice that I recognized keeps me from being happy. And that's all my show is about. How can you be happy 88% of the time? So this is a big piece. So name your critic. Identify who is talking. I know in the old days they said, you know, the person, if you hear voices in your head, you're crazy. I'm here to tell you, if you do not separate out the voices and deal with them and treat them and soothe them, you will go crazy. So that's what we're doing today. So I want you to recognize who that strong character. Now the good news is, so every character, the sad one, remember, the less useful is that she cries all the time. The useful is she's sensitive and creative. Okay, that is the function of the sad one. I have clients who come to me in midlife crisis, or I call midlife opportunity, and they say, I'm crying all the time. I don't understand why. I don't even know why I'm crying, but I can't stop crying. That is your sad one is saying, you have to deal with me. You have buried me for so long, and I need to have a voice, and that's what's happening. So the treatment is the same. We go down into that black hole, and we find who you really are. So we dig, we dig through all the trauma, we dig through all the pain, and we find that seed, and in the seed we find the character. So you've got the brat, you've got the sad one, and then the biggest one is the critic. Most of the time, the critic, you know, I have clients who have a gazillion dollars or billion, and they have everything that they want, and they're still not happy. It describes Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, Robin Williams, all those who have not been able to separate out, in my opinion, all those pieces of themselves and find the strength to soothe and integrate and love and embrace all those parts of them. So this is the Happy 88 process. Thank you for giving me the finger, not that finger, but the thumbs up for the people who are watching and listening now. So name your critic. What is your critic's name? My critic's name is Rose. Surprise, surprise, guess what my mom's name is? And it's not to bash my mom at all. You know, we've made peace with all of this. For my sake, I've made peace with all of this. I forgave her, not for her, but for me. You know, I forgave her because I don't want to be crying or angry most of the time when I think of my mom. Just don't want to do that. So I'm encouraging you to name your cast of characters. So now we've named the critic, Rose. And I want you to take Rose and say, I love you. You've got to be tired. You've been yelling at me forever. You need a vacation. You need to have a seat. Please take yourself from the driver's side and sit in the passenger seat. Buckle your seatbelt. I love you. Thank you for trying to protect me. Because that's what the critic is. The critic on one end is the angry, you're not doing anything right, beat yourself up. But on the other side, it is the protector. If we didn't have the critic, we'd be run over, right? We'd cross the road and cars are there. The critic is the one that's saying, don't do that. Don't put your hand on the stove. We'd be permanently red-handed, burned hands, right? As a kid. So I honor my critic. I don't want to kill my critic. There's some people who will say, oh, you gotta, you know, kill that beach, right? No, you honor your critic, thanking them for how they protected you, but you also thank them for their service. Please sit down, passenger seat. You put the sad one behind you. I love you. I'm going to protect you. Nothing like that's going to happen to you again. And then over here, kitty corner in the back seat is the brat. I'm going to keep my eye on you. I promise. The opposite side to the brat is fun. I promise we're going to go have fun. But right now, to make fun of my boss is not a good way to express yourself. I'll make a date with you, and then we'll do something later. So this model, this approach, this process to jump in the hole, take the flashlight, and look through all that abuse and trauma and crap, shiitake that happened to you. You're shoveling it out. We're looking at it. Okay, yeah, it was bad. It was horrible. She shouldn't have done that. It was painful. You know, and dig all that up out of the hole. You know, go through every horrible experience, you write it down, because it's the last time you're going to have to deal with this, because there's rules around this. Because once you deal and once you do all of this work, this very difficult but very rewarding and very fundamental part of healing, by going there one last time and using it as a way to cathartically take out all of the shiitake in your big black hole. But you didn't fall forever. You hit the bottom, right? You're very, and this is where if there's a lot of people who are scared of crying uncontrollably. They remember a time when they were, their hearts were broken by someone, or they were hurt so badly by someone, they don't ever want to feel that feeling again. And that BS belief system will keep you in pain, because pain is mandatory in life, but suffering from it is optional. Let me say that again. Pain in life is mandatory, but suffering from it is optional. And there's a point of crying where if you allow yourself and don't apologize for crying and don't stop crying and just really allow yourself to feel that horrible feeling of uncontrollable, which is controllable, but you don't want to control it. You want to let it just, it's like the dam, right? You got to let that dam go. You got to be able to allow, and as you're crying, you can do it with a friend. You can do it. I have a giant stuffed animal. His name is Okie Dokie. And I just, or with your pet. They're wonderful support systems. You can do this on your own. You don't even need to do it, with someone. But it is easier when you're with someone. It just is, because sometimes, parts of you are going to take over that aren't the balance center, Dr. Marissa, and think, I can't take this, but it's not true. You can take it. It will subside. You will not cry forever. But depending on how much you buried it, you may be crying for a little longer, okay? But it will not last forever if you treat it. The more years that you press down garbage, the more years that you suppress the feeling of the sadness and the trauma, the longer it will take to process it, and also the messier it's going to get. Because if you press down garbage, it turns to liquid, and then when you press down liquid, it turns into gas. The garbage disposal, when you press down garbage like that, and then you're going to have gas heaping. And the worst part is you don't smell your own gas, but everybody around you smells your gas. And that's usually a symptom that you have not dealt with the trauma, okay? So please, do yourself this beautiful service of dealing with the pain in the most compassionate way, and you can use your muscle of choice. That's the thing. A lot of us who have fun, okay, I need to attend to my mental health. I get it. So how do we do it? We call up somebody, go to the doctor, I need drugs. Or, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to pound out my frustrations and my anger. Okay. But it is temporary. For me, this is my BS, my belief system. The only way to heal from pain is to go through it. Because when you go through the pain, out the other side is the power. So I am encouraging you, this isn't the only way to do it. There's many different ways. There's many different healing methodologies that are out there. Find something that works for you. My real extreme hope is that you do something. Don't let another year of unconsciously living with pain and having it come out sideways. Please don't do that. Because time is a non-renewable energy, and we can't get this time back. So that's why we're doing it on Mondays. All right, so you put the critic in the passenger seat, you put your sad one behind you, you put your bratty one behind here, and now you, balance-centered person, begins to soothe and operate. It does take a little time. You're not going to be talking to these not entities, but parts of you always. Although there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I recognize that when I take things personally, that's my sad one that is front and center. It's not my balance-centered Dr. Marissa, because she knows that everybody is where they are. And when someone accuses of me of being uncaring, and my sad one will say, oh my God, I got accused of being uncaring and that hurts. And that's, once again, I'm getting accused of something that I'm not, and it's not fair. And then the critic will, and then the brat will come out and say, well, if I look like you, I'd be miserable too, not helpful. And then the critical one will say, see, they saw through your BS. You're not all that, and you think you are, but if people really get to know you, you're not all that, and you're not anything close to what you think you are. And there's the critic driving the life car. And it is my job, my discipline, my work to say, I am balance-centered, Dr. Marissa. I know 88% of the time I'm caring. 12% of the time I'm human and I'm not caring. 88% of the time I am smart, but I just did something really stupid. That's 12% of the time. I did that on the last flight. I asked the person beside me, so where are you headed to? The same plane, we're headed the same place. But, that's the 12% of me. Most of the time I am smart. So the balance-centered you is the one that you got to work the muscles for every day. That's why we do the breakfast sandwich, taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. We exercise our ability to know who we are. I know who I am. 88% of the time I'm fabulous. 12% of the time, step in it. And I'm okay with that. So when the voices are talking, it's a tool to use to begin to soothe those cast of characters so they are not driving your life car into the center divider on the 405. All right. I hope that's been helpful, because the next step is to take all of that shiitake that happened and put it back in the hole and say, as a direct result of what happened to me, all of that shiitake, what did it birth in me that I actually like? Ooh, that's a real shift. I thank my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, for helping me make that shift, because from that shift, I was able to have a brand new life that I love. I love my life because I know who I am, and I know that all of that shiitake, all of that abuse made me a strong, determined, resilient, funny, fun-loving person that I am, exactly as I am. I wouldn't change the world. If you could offer me the ability to never have been abused, I will say thank you very much. I love myself as I am, and I'm a product of every shirty thing that happened to me, everything. And that, if everyone if the 7 out of 10 of us, the 8 out of 10 of us who went through childhood trauma could come to that conclusion, we would have world peace, because I believe that a lot of the thrashing around we do is because we're still living in that trauma. So hopefully you've learned something, and I again offer you a free audio book of my 8 Ways to Happiness, that the tools that we went through today. If you're just tuning in now, please go get this free subscribe on my YouTube TV channel that houses all of this so that you can be happy 88% of the time. And that's it for today. Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room, knowing that it's all about balance for you. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Tomorrow is Rich Little, comedian and icon in the Impressionist world. Now go and have the best day ever. See you tomorrow.